In the previous Creia's Conundrums entitled Machines, I mentioned how it's okay to disagree, whether it be with someone you have great respect for and look up to, or a community that you're very attached to. It doesn't help anyone to blindly follow anything. With that said, I expressed how there are certain things about Creia's beliefs that I disagree with. Based on the title of this video, you may already know what it is. Let's go back to Nar Shaddaa again. Like I said before, you can learn a great deal about Creia in just the first 10 minutes of being here. This encounter, much like the beggar from before, can speak volumes about her. She's infuriated if you use the Force to make the thugs give you their money and then kill themselves.
Are psychotic urges all that drives you?
If Vizaz is there, she'll chime in, and Creia is further annoyed.
I am not speaking to you, slave. Be silent.
And refers to her as a slave. More on Vizaz later. The entire encounter happens because the guy that's being shaken down lies to the thugs by telling them that you have the money he owes them.
Oh, look! Here's the one with your credits. About time. Look, these gentlemen are getting impatient.
While the man was in fear for his life and clearly did this out of desperation, it's still a very scummy thing to do. He's getting a bystander involved and getting them in trouble. He doesn't know who this person is. He's rolling the dice and hoping for the best. And now he created the possibility that these strangers may get killed alongside him. Acknowledging this is very important because whatever happens from this point on is all on him. While coupled with circumstantial instances out of his control, his decisions have led him to this point, and the exile is given many options to resolve the situation. In RPGs like this, I find myself bringing certain party members along primarily because I'm interested to hear their reactions. Skills in combat tend to be secondary. I imagine this is the case with many people. With Creia being the most compelling character in the game, I brought her along as much as I could. So how does she react to the various solutions to this problem? As I already mentioned, forced suicide does not impress her. If you help the man in any way, she ridicules you, saying,
And what is it you think you have accomplished?
She brings up a few interesting points about letting people fight their own battles and creating weaknesses for yourself through your allies. But concerning the former, she says,
And when they triumph, they will be even stronger for the victory.
But Creia, it's not when, it's if. If they triumph. This man was about to die, or at the very least, have a couple of limbs lopped off. He didn't ask for help. I don't know how he got into this debt. I think the thugs say that he borrowed the money. But this precise situation is something he brought on himself. He weaseled his way into getting the exiled involved. He lied. If I set that aside, I could say that I'm not sure what I would have done if placed in the same situation. The exile can, without using the Force, persuade the goons to leave the man alone for now. Considering that you didn't have to pay a dime, and the man is still saddled with debt, in other words, his current challenge in life is still very much in place, I thought it was a pretty decent outcome. You can even take it a little bit further and pay for some of what he owes. Creia is not pleased. I understand the value of having people fight their own battles, something I was explaining to my brother's wife after she finished the main story for The Witcher 3. I'm not going to spoil anything. If you've already played the game, then you already know what I mean. I also understand the value in having an appropriate amount of individualism in society. The same goes with having collectivism. If someone slips and falls into the deep end of a pool and they don't know how to swim, but you do, are you going to jump in and help them? Or will you say, he'll be stronger for the experience? More likely he'll drown, but if you help them out, then at least they'll be alive to then learn how to swim. Give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. Give him no fish or no lessons, he starves. We are trying to have a society here, and in society, sometimes people need help. Kreia's stance on this issue might help to explain her reaction, or lack thereof, when it comes to another choice the exile can make. The exile can suggest that the man pay for his debt as a slave. The exchange thugs agree and take him away. We know what happens to people when they are enslaved. They aren't exactly strengthened, neither physically or mentally. Slavers don't feed the best, just enough to keep the slaves working. Punishment for any perceived disobedience can be severe, and due to all this and more, people are broken, and the ones putting them back together are slavers. Even if he doesn't remain a slave for the rest of his life, what kind of a person is going to come out of the other end of that torture? Kreia has no reaction to this outcome. No influence is gained or lost. I've said in a previous video that Creia is not prone to praise, but will tell you when she thinks you're wrong. But because of this silence, the best I can do is say that she has a neutral stance on the outcome. However, she considers Visas to be a slave, and when speaking to her about Visas being used as a doorway to Nihilus, she says this:
Any being that gives up its will, that allows itself to be used in such a way, deserves such a fate.
Now, if we take this phrase as being more than just using certain people in certain instances for certain things, then it could very well sound like Creia is saying that any slave deserves to be enslaved because they allow themselves to be enslaved. If they fight back against their slavers, they may very well die. Is death preferable to enslavement? I'm certain that Creia would say that it is. Most people would say that it is. I would say that it is. But we all know that people are afraid of dying and have a large capacity for hope. This all lines up with Kreia's views on the Force and why she wants it destroyed.
I wield it, but it uses us all, and that is abhorrent to me.
Creia is a slave. The Force flows through all living things. Thus, all living things are essentially its slaves.
That you are a slave, Neo.
Remember what she said: any being that gives up its will and allows itself to be used in such a way deserves its fate. Well, Creia refuses to give up her will, and she refuses to allow herself to be used by anything in any way. She would center herself to avoid that fate, but decided to find a way to put an end to it for good, for everyone, even if it meant that she'd die trying. Ladies and gentlemen, you may have noticed a significant increase in voice quality. I did indeed acquire a new microphone. 3 factors went into me being able to purchase it: my own savings, familial contribution, and last but certainly not least, fewer donations. Quite appropriately for the subject of this video, don't you agree? I received outside help. Some have told me that I don't deserve it, and maybe I don't. But these individuals think that I do. They actually see potential in me, even when I didn't see any in myself. And for that, I thank you. Knowing that these people see value in me means more to me than money ever could. Now I owe it to them to make the most of what they've given me. Beyond needing money for basic things like food, electricity, and traveling, I do need a new goal. Aspirations help to maintain focus. It is already something more abstract like professional success, but something tangible can also help. So now, I'll try to save money for new computer components. With an upgrade, I'll be able to produce better looking videos. Not to say that 1080p is bad, but it does take a while to process. This AMD FX 8350 CPU that I have is chugging along, but it's a hell of a workhorse. I can still see it getting the job done for the foreseeable future. Just gotta start sooner rather than later. for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today.